Hello, Divi Nation, and welcome. This is our Divi feature update live, coming to you every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern. Today, I'll be talking about the new contact form module. Now, this was updated a few weeks ago, but I'd like to go into detail and show you what you can do with this form. So, the things that we'll be covering are the new field types that you can add to the contact form, field validation rules. We're also going to go through conditional logic because this is now available on this contact form module. We'll also go through how to create drop-downs, checkboxes, and radio buttons. Now, I'll also be covering one of my favorite features, which is conditional logic. So I'll go through step by step and show you how to do this. Towards the end, I'll also do some layout options whereby you can arrange your form fields in the way that you want to do. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to show you a post which has more of this information in detail. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at the article, I will link it in the show notes below. Okay, so this is the article. So it goes through all the form features. There's also a video description just covering the main points of this module. Okay, so like I said, I'll leave this in the show notes below so you can go ahead and read this in more detail. Okay, so I can already see that there's quite a lot of people already tuning in. This is fantastic. We have Viola from Germany, Tran, new Divi feature, new Divi. Okay, we also have Sheikh Fahid from Bangladesh. Awesome. Thank you very much for tuning in. We have Frank from Denmark, Beth from Australia. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, we have Tahoe, I think, from the Czech Republic. Awesome. We have Donnell from Ireland. Thank you very much for tuning in. We have, a lot of people from different parts of the world. Enrico from Rome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, wow. These are coming in very fast. I can't keep up. We have Edouard from France. We have Wim from Netherlands. Busan from Casablanca. Wow. I can't keep up, guys. Tanzania, we have Tanzania. Russia, Eugene from Russia. Tracy from Canada. Wow, awesome. Thank you very much for tuning in. Okay, I'm excited now. Let's dive in and let me show you how we can use these features. In fact, Robert from Tanzania, Tran from Vietnam, Volker from Germany. This is amazing. This is amazing. Okay, I'm going to go in and show you step by step how we can use this brand new feature, which was released a few weeks ago. Okay, so right now, all I've done is I've created a page called contact form. Okay, so I haven't applied anything yet. So what I'm going to do next is to click on use the Divi builder. Like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on use visual builder because if you watch my tutorials by now, I prefer using the visual builder because we have more options there, and also you can see what you're designing right there before your eyes. Okay, so now that I'm here in my visual builder, I am going to add a single column like that, and since we are doing a contact form tutorial, I will search for my contact form. Now, if you've been using this contact form module, this is what you normally see by default. Okay, so this is what loads up by default. So let's say you want to add a brand new field type. Right, so all you have to do now is to click here on this plus button, add the field type. So let's say we need to collect the age information on our form. So I'm just going to type in age. Like that, and then I'm going to use this as the title as well below here, like that. Now, if you take a look on the form here, we have now added a new field called age. Okay, so we have limitless items that we can add to our forms. We can add pretty much anything. So now our form can collect any sort of information. So now that I've added age, let me show you something that's really cool. If I come over here to field options, right, you can now choose the input field. So here we have email field, text area, checkboxes, radio buttons, and drop downs. Now we'll be covering these later on in today's live show. Okay, so right now I'm just going to leave it as input field. Now, here on the maximum length, we can adjust this to make it whatever we want, the maximum length. So, and also here we also have, this is the minimum length and maximum length. Now, because this is age, we can also come here to allowed symbols, click on the drop down, and only select numbers. Okay, because obviously our age is going to be in numbers or digits. So we can specify this only here on the age, right? So now if I save this form and try to fill it in and put any other characters, it won't work. It will show an error message. Now let me show you how that works. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and save like that. And then I'm going to save the page and exit the Visual Builder and then test it. Right, so here I'm just going to add my name, email address, no message. And then here on the age, if I try to add my age and say 30, okay, fill in that and click submit. You'll notice that we have an error message showing here, okay? Please match the format requested and so on. So this is something that you can actually do on your forms to really make them precise as people are adding information to these forms. So let's dive back in and let's move on and talk about a few more features. Okay, so I'm going to go back into the module settings. Fantastic. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here is I am going to add my drop downs. So in order for us to do that, in fact, I can just click this plus button here like that. So let's say the information we need in the drop downs is color. So I'm going to call this color. So these examples I'm using are just random examples, but of course you can customize this to exactly what you want this to be. So I'm going to add my title in here, click on field options, and then I'm going to select drop down, okay, right here. So I'm going to select drop down, and then as soon as you select drop down, you have now the ability to add your options. So now I'm going to add my colors. I'm going to start with red, click plus, blue, plus, yellow. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to add these three colors, okay? Field required, again, this is something I forgot to mention, but if you want people to select this field, you have to specify it here, but I can just, disable it. I mean, for now, it's not a problem. Okay, so now that we have all this information, let's go ahead and test this. I'm going to click on save. And in fact, before I move ahead, you can see here that this text here is quite small. So let's come over here to design. And then I'm going to click on form field text, because this is where we get to adjust our text. So I'm going to come in here and set it to about 20 so we can all read it. Okay, I'm going to save this, save the page, and let's see how our drop down works. So now I'm going to click on exit Visual Builder. Now, if I click here on the drop down, we have now options to choose which color we want. So it can be blue, or yellow, or red, as I set them up in the form. Okay, so has any one of you used all these features in the contact form? If you have, please show me by adding a 1 in the comments box. If not, please add 2. I'm just curious to see if you knew about these extra features in the contact form module. So if you've used these features or if you knew about all these features, please add a 1. If not, please add a 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to go into my Visual Builder one more time, and we're going to move on to the next thing. Right, so I'm just going to take a look here. Wow, I can see a lot of 2s. They are a lot of 2s. I can see there's quite a few that have used it. So we've got Volker, there's a 1, Michael, Meetup Central. Wow, so I would say there's more that haven't really used these features. Okay, fantastic. So I will go ahead now and show you even more things that you can do with this form. Okay, and let me just check over here on Facebook. We have Mike Elliott saying, awesome, awesome. Right, let's take a look. So over here, I've only got 1 and a 2 from Mike Elliott. Okay. Right, so let's go ahead and try and show you different features. Okay, so now I'm just going to go back to my contact form. Okay, I'm going to go into my settings. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is checkboxes. So again, I'm going to click this plus button, field ID. I'm going to set this as salary, like that. And then the title, I'll just leave that as salary as well. Right, by the way, if you have any questions, please do add them in the comments box below, and I'll do my best to answer those questions as we proceed with this live show. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do now that I have my field ID is to come over here to field options. Okay, so since now we're doing the checkboxes, I'm going to come over here to the field input ID, select checkboxes. So here we have salary. I'll add the next item. So here on this option, I'm going to add, let's say, 5,000 to 10,000. Okay, so that's my first option. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this is going to be 10,000 to 15,000. Like that. Let's add one more. So this one is going to be 15,000 to 30,000. Like that. Okay, so these are checkboxes, and you can see here in the on this area that they are already applied. And what I could actually do here is to select this checkbox by default. Okay, so we can also do that, which is quite cool. So let's go ahead and save this and view this form by exiting the Visual Builder. In fact, I need to save this. Okay, so now you can see that our form is taking shape. We have our color here. We have also our salary. So people can now choose, what sort of salary they are getting, if this is the type of information you need to collect from your visitors. Okay, cool. So I just want to make sure that everyone can see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to switch over here to my main view and see if there's any questions here on Facebook. Okay, there's no questions here. Right, so over here on YouTube. Right, so Toran says, I hope I'm pronouncing that well, by the way, says, how do you modify the length of the input field as they're often too long? That is a very good question. In fact, this was something I was going to cover towards the end, but we might as well do this now because we have the ability to do that while, just in case I forget. Okay, so let me show you how we can do that quickly. Right, so what I'm going to do here is to go back into my Visual Builder. And then I'm going to go into my settings. Right, so what you want to do here is to select the one that you need to make some customizations to. So for example, this age one is way too long. Yes, so I'm going to come over here into this gear icon and select this gear icon. Click on, go into design, click on layout, and then here you can see that make full width is set to yes. If you set it to no, straight away you can see now I've halved the length of that age input. So that's how you do it. Now this looks a bit weird because the color is also taking majority of the space. So let's fix that. So to do that, I'm going to click this little back arrow here, and then I'm going to choose the color one. So I'm going to click the gear icon on the color, go on to design, and then on the layout, just make sure that this is set to no on the full width. So now you can see that we've pretty much customized it. So thank you very much for asking that question. And so pretty much this is how we customize that. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to go through radio buttons. Let me show you how to add the radio buttons. So I'm just going to go back here to the input fields. And by the way, you can drag these and have these in different places. So here I can just drag this and set it below, or I can just, play around with this and make sure that I have the order that I want them to be. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is radio buttons. So I'm going to come over here, click this plus button. I'm going to click on text. Right, so this input field on the radio buttons, what can we choose? So let's say movies. Right, so the title again, I'm going to call this movies. So let's say this is the type of information we need to collect from our visitors. So I've got movies there. So next, I'm going to come over here to input field, and this time it's going to be radio buttons. Okay, so as you can see here, there's nothing added yet. So this is where we need to add these. Okay, so I'm going to take one option from the viewers. So give me an example of a movie that you'd like me to add here. So I'm going to add the first one. I'm going to call this The Matrix. So just add something, a movie that you'd like me to add on the form in the comments. So I've added Matrix. Okay, so I'm just going to check and see what I have here. Avengers, okay. Okay, I'm going to add Avengers, Pulp Fiction. Okay, so those are the two first ones, okay, that I'll add. So Avengers and Pulp Fiction. Okay, so I'm going to add those. Avengers and Pulp Fiction. And thanks for the contributions, by the way. Awesome, right. So we've got movies there, those three movies. Now I can choose this by default, as with the checkboxes if I want to do that, but I'll just leave this blank. And again, you can also make this field required or not required. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and save. So this is how we add checkboxes. Now let's move on to one of my favorite features, and this is conditional logic. So we can actually create this form in such a way that if someone selects, let's say, for example, on the salary here, 10,000 to 15,000, we can show certain information. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to add a field here. I'm going to click this plus button. And by the way, in fact, before I move forward, let me just check quickly if we have any more questions. I'm just going to scroll back to the top and see. The question here from Andy says, can you only add 2 fields in one row? Yes, I mean, this is what we can do in the Visual Builder, but you can also further customize this using CSS. Okay, so we are able to add more, but using CSS. But by default, you can only add those 2, as I've showed you in the example. Could you make this input field custom length? This question is from Abigail. Right. I'm not sure what you mean by custom length. Do you mean the information that actually goes into the actual field, or the entry? I mean, the thing that you, the thing that you add the information in. Okay. So if you can just specify that, I'll be able to answer that. Okay. Can we make this is from Wim, can we make a calculated field based on input? I don't think we can do that, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to get back to you on that one. And so I'm going to make a note of that and ask the developers. I'm just going to make a note of this. I'm not 100% sure, but I will ask and make sure that this I give you the right information. The field itself, okay, Abigail says the field itself. Yes, so the field itself, again, as I mentioned before, it can be done using CSS, so you can customize that in the custom CSS. Okay. I can see a lot of questions here saying, how can we control the exact size of the field? Again, as I mentioned, you can control this, the size of the field using CSS, but using the Visual Builder, you can only do that. I mean, you can only have 2 of them there side by side. Right, so let me go in and let me show you how to do the conditional logic. I'm trying to make sure that on Facebook, there's no questions. So Tanya says conditional logic, please. Mike Elliott says addition logic. Not sure what that means, but anyways, let's go in and do the conditional logic. Right. So what I'm going to do here is, we can see here we added a new field. In fact, let's get rid of that field. I'm going to delete that. And in fact, that's how you delete fields. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go into the salary, right? So in the salary here, click on the settings icon. And then below here, we can see we have this option which says conditional logic. Now, to activate conditional logic, all you have to do is to click enable like that. And then let's say we want the visitors that, or people that fill in the form, who select 15,000 on the salary to 30,000 to be able to see the movies, right? So if they select this, or I mean the 10,000 or 5,000, they won't be able to see the movie. But as soon as they select 15 to 30,000, we want them to see this extra field called movies. So how do we do that? So now that I have conditional logic enabled, I'm going to come over here to name. I'm going to click on salary. In fact, I'm on the salary. I'm going to click on movies equals matrix. Okay. So I'm going to save this. In fact, let me just go back one more time. Let me choose a field which doesn't have a lot of things inside as the first example, just so that it's easier. Okay, so I'm going to choose age, right, as the first one. So if someone fills in the age, we want them to see the movie options. So here I'm going to go to age like that, enable the conditional logic. So the rules are movies. Okay, I'm going to save this like that. So let's test this. I'm going to save this page. And I am going to exit the Visual Builder. Right. So you can see here, wow, I think I've messed this up. Let me go back in. Sorry about that. I'll go back into my Visual Builder. Right, I think I clicked quite a few things here in my conditional logic. So let me just go back in and fix that. So you can see here I'd enabled quite a few things on there. So this is why it's not working. Okay, so I'm going to go back, go to the age. Okay, so I'm going to save this for now. So now I'm back to how we started. So I have all my fields right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in. So we want that when someone adds their age, we show them the movies. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to conditional logic. Right, so it's enabled. So movies equals matrix. Okay. So I'm going to save that like that. Save the page. Exit the Visual Builder. Wow, it happened again. Right. What I'll do is I'll start with a basic example and then show you an advanced. I think I'm moving too fast here. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to the age. And let me go to the conditional logic. Right, I'm going to disable this for now. Right, so let me start with a basic example. So let me add one more field here. So the field I'm going to add is called test. Right, so I'm going to add this field. So we can see here I've added this field. So what I want to do is to show this field when someone selects the salary of let's say 5 to 10,000. Okay, so to do that, come back over here, click on salary, conditional logic. Right, so here, right, so we want that when someone selects salary equals a 5 to 10,000, this field called test is going to show. So I'm going to save this for now, like that. Save the page. And then I'm going to exit the Visual Builder. Right. So we can see here that the form is not, the option test is not showing. That's because we have 10 to 15,000 selected. So again, if I select this one here, 15 to 30,000, nothing shows, right? But if I select 5 to 10,000 like that, the field now shows. So this is how you use conditional logic. So this could be actually information that is relative to the type of form you're designing. So let's say it's someone that's applying for a job, or it's a web design quote. So you can actually show information here based on what your users select. So again, that's how it works. Now, what I'm going to do next is, because it took me a while to show you how to do this, I'm going to do this one more time so I can show you how this works. So I'm going to click on Enable Visual Builder. Okay, and then I am going to go into my settings here. Let's add one more field. So the field we're going to add here is, let's say, an email option. Or let's call this special email. So we want that when people select a certain option here, they get the special email option. Okay, so I'm going to select all this and give this a title. So that's special email. I'm going to come over here to form fields, and this is going to be a text area. So you can see here. Okay. So now that we have this, I'm going to come over here to conditional logic, click on enable. So I can choose anything here. So let's say, for example, I want this special email field to show. So we have options here: email addresses, message, age, color, salary, and so on. So let's say I want that to show when they add their age. So I can select my age here, equals. So let's say age equals 40. Okay. So if the age is equal to 40, this special email option here is going to show. So I'm going to go ahead now and save. Like that. Save the page. And then I'm going to exit the Visual Builder. Right, so remember, it's age equals 40. That's going to show that input field. Okay, so we can add all this information here. So let's add 20. See, nothing happens. But if I add 40, now we have the special email section now showing. That almost gave me a heart attack because I thought that wasn't working. Okay, so any other age you add won't work. So let's try this one more time. I'm going to refresh the page like that. So if you add, say, 12, okay, nothing shows. But if I add 40, you can see here that it's showing. Okay, I hope that's clear. So let me take a look if there's any questions. Right, so I'm back over here on right, let's see if there's any questions. Thank you for answering. Is there any source for this CSS for those that do not know it? Yes, what I could do is I could link some information here, Abigail, for you to be able to add the CSS code. But if you want to add the CSS code, I can just show you briefly where you can add that CSS code. So let me just show you where that CSS code goes. So if you enable your Visual Builder and go into the form itself, form settings, like that, all our additional CSS goes into the Advanced tab. So over here on Custom CSS, you can see we can do CSS for the main element, the button, the form fields, and so on. Okay, so this is where all the CSS goes. It's the Advanced tab on our contact form settings. Okay, so let's take a look if there's any more questions. Tran says, give me shortcuts to find shortcuts for some of the Divi features in Divi. Right, we have a post which has all our shortcuts. What I'll do is I will link that in the description below. So shortcuts. Okay, I'll add the link in the show notes below. How to collect information. This is a question from, I think it's Milchko, I think. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it well. How to collect information. Okay, so I'm going to cover that too. How to collect information. Right. So let me show you how to collect all that information. And in fact, let me just check here if there's more questions on Facebook. So here, Tanya says, that would be so nice if we could add a text box that pops up upon conditional logic. Yes, but we don't have that feature at the moment. This could be maybe, you know, fingers crossed, something that could be coming up in the future. Gagan says, can you also set conditioned recipient? No, we can't do that at the moment. We only have one single email that we can add to receive all these emails. Okay, so let me show you how to set your email so that all these options that we are collecting from this form goes to a specific place. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here to my contact form, and let me show you how to do that. Okay, so back over here to contact. So let's say all this information that we need here is all set. We are happy with this, and where does all this information go? So what you need to do to set all this, to set up the email, is to come down over here and just make sure you're on contact, by the way, and come over here to email, and this is where you add your email address. So by default, obviously, it's not filled in, so you have to make sure that you fill in that information. So in my case, I could say mac@creativeastro, for example. So this is where all the emails, all this information here that I'm collecting will be sent to. Okay, so that's, that simple. You just add your email here and just make sure that you save it. Okay. Now I'm going to go through, now that we've covered pretty much everything, I'm just going to go through some bonus things that you can actually do on this form. So I'm just going to go back here into my module settings. Right, so what we could do here, we could also add a title. So I'm just going to give this title, test form. So you can see here as I'm adding my text, it's actually showing here. Now, we can also have a success message. So let's say the visitor to the website has added all the information here. What message you would like them to see? So we could actually add our success message here. We could say, thank you, we'll be in touch soon. Okay, but this can be, any information that you want. Now, submit button text. Right now, it just says submit, but we could we can name it anything. So this could be even labeled more or next step, by the way, like that. So this could be like step 1, and this could be step 2. We've already covered the email. This is where the email of the recipient goes. So this is where you collect your emails. And also here on the elements, you can actually display this capture or disable it, right? Now, it's advisable to keep this capture on because online, you don't want to be in a situation where you are receiving a lot of junk email, because some of these online programs, they autofill these forms and send you junk email. So this is why we have this capture right here. Now, let's say you want that after people have filled in this form, you want them to go to a specific page after they've filled that. This is where you have this redirect URL. Okay, so then you can just paste it in here. So the reason why you may want to use this is, let's say you want to have a special thank you page, which maybe even has a video. So after they've filled this form in, when they click submit or next step or whatever you call this button, this is the page that that will be loaded if this is enabled. So that page could be a special thank you page, which has a video which explains more about the next step, or it could be a video explaining, what happens next. So you could have something along the lines of, thank you for filling in this form. We'll be back in touch after 2 weeks, for example. So you could do this by utilizing this enable URL. Now, this background here is for really customizing your form, making it look nice and so on. So you can add, your backgrounds, and then you can go in and customize all of that. But I'm just going to keep this simple like that. But you do have the option of coming in here and doing all those changes. Now, there's also more things that you can do here in the design tab. So if you come over here to the design, text, we can do quite a lot here with the text. We can also come here to our title text, which is this here, and customize that. We can make it even bigger. If we wanted to, we can even center it like that. Okay, we can go into the form field text. And again, I think I touched on this a bit, so we can make this even bigger if we wanted to, but we have the ability to go in and customize this. Okay, let's come over here to the button. Again, the button, we can change the color of the button to match the branding of our website. So if I click on use custom styles for button, for example here, we can add our color for the button. We can even add our background color like that. So you can see where I'm going with this. So you can see in a very few steps, I've managed to change the color of my button. So you can actually go ahead and also, play around with the fonts and also the icons if you wanted those displayed. Okay. And then on the sizing, of course, you can go in and define how long you want this. How wide you want this form to be. And you can also center it. And you also have spacing, border, and box shadow options. And then on the bottom here, we also have animation effects. So pretty much this is what covers our Divi feature update live every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern. So what we tend to do on this show is to go in depth and show you how we can use these latest features that we release regularly in more detail. Okay, so pretty much this covers our tutorial. If you like this live show, please do share it, and also share it on social media, and also make sure that you subscribe. By subscribing, you'll be notified every time we go live and every time we post new videos. So I'm just going to take a quick glance one more time and see if there's any more questions before I sign out. Okay, so I'm going to start here with Facebook. Let's take a look. Tanya says, I don't like the text in the drop-down options. It's so small compared to the rest. Yes, you could go in and really customize this text if you wanted to. All the options are in the design tab. Henry says, can you do a pre-fill in that cannot be detected? For example, a preferred URL filled in already. I'm sure you can do that. I just haven't done it in this example, but yes, that could be possible. Okay, this was Tanya correcting me here. Thank you very much, but I managed to work it out in the end. It was a bit frustrating for me because I couldn't work out why that conditional logic was working. Okay, but let's come over here to YouTube and let's see if we have more questions here. So Beth says, will there be a tutorial that shows you how to customize in CSS? Yes, that may be something that we can look at. In fact, let me make a note of that. Customize for using CSS. Okay, I've made a note of that. And please make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed already, because by doing that, you'll be notified when we post these videos. Monique says, a very nice feature. Thanks for demonstration. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Beth says uploading files would be useful for providing proof of purchase or warranty info. Yes, I agree. Again, this could be something that that could be added in the future. So fingers crossed. We're always adding features to make Divi really work even better. So we are trying to add all these features to make Divi, the complete package for designing websites. So yes, we'll be looking forward to that. Do you think using an info at email address will end up in the spam box easily? Jantane, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that well. The question is, do you think using an info at email address will end up in the spam box easily? No, I don't think so. I use an info all the time and it doesn't really go into the spam box. So if that's the email address you'd like to use, I would say go ahead and use that. Let's take a look. Todd says, thank you very much for the tutorial. Thank you, really appreciate it. Paul also says, thanks for the tutorial, great help. Thank you very much, Paul. Sandro says, thank you. Thank you very much, really appreciate that. You're welcome, you're welcome. Beth says, I love Divi, programming makes life so much easier. Yes, I agree, definitely. Let's take a look if I've missed any questions here. Right, it looks like we've covered all the questions. Okay, thank you very much for tuning in. So everyone that has been watching this live show on Facebook, I'd like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and also YouTube, thank you very much for tuning in. Make a note in your diaries for next Monday, where we'll be talking about the next feature in depth and help you on how you can utilize these features on your own project. So thank you very much and enjoy the